Hello, Uncle Ted, your ice cream alchemist here with ice cream every day, and this is brown sugar pecan praline pumpkin ice cream. And yeah, it's wonderful, it's rich, it's amazing. There's a lot of steps with this, but I'm going to take you through it. Now, in this video, the writer that we're going to highlight is Damien Angelica Walters. I love her work. I'm going to talk about it later, and I'll have links at the bottom so you can check it out yourself. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you how to make this amazing ice cream. And I want to give a shout out to my mom. Hopefully she sees this before she goes in for surgery. She's got a big surgery coming up, and just want to let her know I love you. And you taught me a lot about making ice cream and about cooking, and I really hope that you like the video, Mom. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into it. This is a pretty good sized pumpkin. It's actually a carving pumpkin, but I got it because it was on sale and it was the only size that the grocery store had. So just go ahead, and I use a serrated knife to carve this up. Listen to the sound it makes. What I ended up doing, because this thing was so big, is I cut it into quarters, and then I went ahead and used the knife to get all the guts out, save the seeds. Toasted pumpkin seeds are awesome, and there's all kinds of instructions online. It's real simple to do, but I always turned them face down, the quarters I mean, and then I poked holes in the skins with a fork so that the steam had a place to go. And then I put it in the oven at 350 degrees. I actually ended up cooking it for close to an hour and 45 minutes because the pumpkin was so big. I had to use the biggest baking pan I owned just to get it in the oven. It was just massive, and it took forever. But once you get it out of the oven, let it cool off for about an hour or so before you handle it, and then take a fork and start flaking off the meat off the skin, because you don't want the skin's terrible. But just go ahead and flake the meat off, do whatever you got to do. It's going to be messy, you're going to make a big mess in your kitchen, but it's worth it. Pumpkins are real sticky, and that's the big difference between the pumpkins that you buy at the store and the ones that you get in a can. You know, if you're going to take a fresh pumpkin, you're going to get a much sweeter product. It's going to have a lot more natural sugar in it, so yeah, it's going to be sticky, and you're going to get pumpkin juice all over the place, but it's worth it. I'm going to be honest here, I used a recipe off a video that I found online from a guy named T-Roy, and I love it. T-Roy Cooks, I'm going to have a link on there. T-Roy, if you're watching this, I love your videos, you taught me a lot, but I went ahead and followed your recipe to a T. I even used the cast iron skillet, it worked great, and this is what I ended up getting, and it was well worth it. Now, what I also made sure to do is I used a little bit of oil on some parchment paper, I used a brush to get it all on there, that way my praline wouldn't stick. I had a choice, I could either shoot a video about making praline or burn the praline, and pecans are so expensive that I decided that I was going to go ahead and just make the praline. This was actually my first time making pecan praline, and I was terrified about ruining my pan, but I followed the recipe and it was great. The pan cleaned up much easier than I thought it would. It was well worth it. And once you got that done, I put it in one big pile because I knew I was going to chop it up, so I didn't worry about scooping it out into small little discs. Go ahead and let the pecan praline cool for a couple of hours while we move to our pumpkin. We're going to take a couple tablespoons of butter in a pan, melt that down a little bit, and then I added roughly 3 cups of the pumpkin that we scooped out, and we're going to let that heat up, and then we're going to use a potato masher. I don't want to do a puree. I didn't want to make a bigger mess, but also I wanted some chunks. I didn't want a puree. I wanted a little bit of chunks of pumpkin because, after all, pumpkin tastes good, and since we're not using the garbage out of a can, we should probably have something that highlights good tasting pumpkin. You know, this time of year, it always makes me think of being a kid and Mom, because Mom used to cook down pumpkins, and we'd have, you know, pumpkin pies, pumpkin cookies, things like that. It was just always part of the tradition in the fall. And so every time, you know, I do anything with pumpkin, I think about Mom, I think about growing up as a kid. Once you've got the pumpkin smashed down and it's looking like, you know, mashed potatoes only with pumpkin, go ahead and add a carefully measured cup of brown sugar. Very carefully measured. Mom never measured anything anyway either, so, but yeah, just go ahead and put in a cup of brown sugar and mix that around. You know, I was hoping that my mom would see this before she goes in for surgery here soon, but, you know, it's it's one of those things that you just kind of grow up with, and it's a tradition you want to pass on. And I think maybe that's why I make these videos, is because, you know, I don't really have anybody to pass the stuff on to. So if I make the videos and pass it out to the general consciousness of the internet, maybe somebody will pick it up and the memories will live on. It's worth a shot. Next, we're going to cook the pumpkin down for another 15 or 20 minutes, constantly stirring. We're going to cook as much moisture out of there as we possibly can. And when you get done, you'll notice that there's a lot less moisture and it's going to be a lot more reduced. My mom's one of the reasons that I really got into reading as a kid, because Mom was a reader too. And our Friday nights during school was to go to the library. I mean, that's just what we did after dinner. We, you know, load up the car and go to the library. It's something I grew up with. So it's, you know, no small wonder why I'm making ice cream with pumpkin and I'm highlighting writers like Damien Angelica Walters. It all kinds of makes sense when you look at it. See how good this stuff looks? You're going to have some extra that you won't use in the ice cream. By all means, hang on to it. It's good in a whole bunch of other stuff, and it tastes a lot better than the crap out of a can. The writer I'm highlighting this week is Damien Angelica Walters. Now, if you ask who or why, it's because you just haven't read her yet. Because I guarantee, once you read her work, you'll be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I have loved her work for years. I am a huge fan. And she has a voice that you will never forget. It's somebody I think really should get more credit than she gets. You know, one of the things that has always struck me about her work is that there's almost M.R. James quality in the way that she sets an atmosphere, the way that she'll set a mood of a story. It's just incredible. And I've always thought that reading her work was what modern day wordsmithing was about. Like, this is what horror is supposed to look like, you know? Go ahead and put that pumpkin aside to cool for a little bit. Now we're going to go to the dairy, and we're going to start off with 2 cups of heavy cream. And you like my shiny new pan? It was my birthday present from my friend Charmaine. I love it. In my opinion, one of the best short story compilations out there is Damien's collection, Sing Me Your Scars. She does things that I had never seen other writers do before, and it was her short stories previous to that one that really made a huge impact on me as a writer. And it was an interview she gave years and years ago that resonated with me. And that was the point when I decided as a writer to stop being cute and just write about my life. And lo and behold, I started getting short stories sold. Amazing. But she has a novel that just came out, and you really need to check it out. I'm going to have links. You need to read it. Trust me on this one. It's October. You need to be reading good horror. I will provide you links to good horror. You will thank me later. Once the dairy's warmed up, we're going to go ahead and add half a cup of non-fat dry milk along with 1 teaspoon or half a teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, and then we're going to go ahead and blend that up real well with our 2 cups of heavy cream and 1 cup of whole milk that we've heated up in our shiny new pan. I'm sure my neighbors have started to get tired of pumpkin stuff. Pumpkin cookies, pumpkin cake, and all that other stuff. But it's tradition, you know? It's something that I grew up with, and it's something I want to pass on. So yeah, I hope that you guys get a chance. Get your own pumpkin, cook it down like I showed you. Don't use the stuff out of a can. This tastes better than what you're going to get out of a can anyway, so you might as well do it. I mean, you want it to taste good, right? For a few reasons, Mom can't eat my ice cream. But hopefully here when she's feeling better, I'll have some cookies for her. And this is kind of how it is. If you don't feel good, eat this. It'll make you feel better. Next, we're going to go ahead and mix up 4 egg yolks along with 3/4 of a cup of white sugar, and we're going to blend that up real well till the eggs get to a ribbon stage, and you've seen me do that before. Also, we're going to add to that our 1/8 of a teaspoon of guar gum, and we're going to add 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, and then we're going to go ahead and whip that up real well, like I said, to the ribbon stage. Next, we're going to go ahead and temper our eggs with our hot dairy. You guys have seen me do this before, and by the way, it is so much easier with my shiny new pan that Charmaine got me for my birthday. So what we're going to do is we're going to get those eggs moving with our mixer, then we're going to slowly add in some of our hot dairy, and this way we bring the eggs up to temperature without curdling them and cooking them, because we don't want scrambled eggs in our ice cream. It doesn't taste that good. I've had it before, and it just doesn't taste good. Bit by bit, we go ahead and we add that hot dairy into the eggs, keeping the eggs moving at all times. Once we got that incorporated, we're going to put everybody back in the pool, back in the pan, and we're going to heat that up to 165 degrees and hold it at 165 for at least 1 minute so we kill off all the cooties. After having it up to 165 degrees for 1 minute, we're going to take it off the heat, and then we're going to go ahead and strain it in our strainer so that we can strain out any bits that we missed. And then once it's strained, we're going to go ahead and add 1.5 cups of our pumpkin mix. And just go ahead and scoop that in, carefully measured of course, just like Ma. And we're going to put that in and then give that a good mix. And once we get that all thoroughly incorporated, we are done. Go ahead and cover that with a sheet of plastic. You want to make sure you got the surface area touching so that it doesn't form a skin, because that's just nasty. One thing about ice cream bases that use eggs is that you want to let them sit at least overnight, because you need to let the proteins in the eggs do what they need to do, and it really adds to the richness of the ice cream base. So we're going to go ahead and leave it overnight in the fridge. Then we're going to pull it out. Now we chop up our Pecan pralines into really small pieces, because we want small chunks to mix into our ice cream. And we're going to use at least 3/4 of a cup per batch. So you're going to want to go ahead and chop up about 3 cups. Churn your ice cream according to the manufacturer's instructions. When it's about 3/4 of the way done, that's when you're going to want to put in your Pecan praline, because you don't want it to get absorbed in. You don't want any moisture. So go ahead and add that after it's been churning for a while. You know, I really want to thank you guys for watching, and I love the fact that so many of you have shared links on social media. I really appreciate that. And, you know, I really hope that you guys grab one of Damien's works, because she really is an amazing writer. We do live in the golden age of horror, because there are so many women right now whose voices are finally being heard, and it's a beautiful thing. It's October. You should be reading good horror, and I've got links below that you should click on. Now, remember, if you're not eating ice cream for breakfast, what's the point of being an adult? And Mom, I hope you're able to see this and know that I love you.